Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 46 of 46 podcast. January is coming to a close, and we are already a month into 2025. Can you believe it? I hope your year is off to a fast start and that you've hit the ground running here in 2025. But if you haven't, the year is just getting started, and there is no time like the present to turn it all around. It's the winter. There's so much time left. But speaking of hitting the ground running in 2025, this week on the podcast, I'm back with a summit session, and I had the pleasure of telling the story of 23 men and women from all over the United States and Canada who decided to come into the new year with unprecedented momentum in both their physical fitness and their hiking goals. So back on December 2nd, these 23 people started a 6-week journey to become stronger, fitter hikers and people, and it was 6 weeks of lots of sweat, probably some blood, and only a few tears, and lots of step-ups. Now I'm talking about the Great Range Athlete Colvin team. Tonight we're going to talk all about how their Great Range Athlete journey went, and we're going to talk all about our recent group hike here in the Adirondack High Peaks. So without further ado, the Colvin team, I'd like to officially welcome all of you to the 46 of 46 podcast. How are we doing tonight?
Doing great.
Doing great, James.
All right, we got a big old crew right now to talk shop. So our recent hike was up Mount Colvin for the listeners, not Colvin. Let's not get confused. I have a feeling that's going to be somewhat confusing, but we hiked Colvin a weekend ago, and basically throughout Great Range Athlete, we train, we get stronger, we get fitter so that we can have better mountain adventures. That is the whole point of Great Range Athlete, and all of these people here tonight are going to tell about their story and how it went. Who's recovered fully from their Great Range Athlete experience? Raise their hands. All right, very much. That's everybody. All right, I'm going to start with none other than the legend of the group, Mr. Steven from Peru. Steven, talk to me about your Great Range Athlete experience. I want to hear your story. I want to hear why you came to it and ultimately how you did on the hike. You were a legend in the group, and I want to hear from you first, my brother.
Good evening, athletes. Steven from Peru here. My saying.
That's it, baby. Steven from Peru, everyone. Hello, athletes. That's how we would always start all of his posts on our group mobile app, and you became the cheerleader of the team, Steven. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your demeanor and your attitude. You always came with a smile, and you always came with encouragement, and it was always met well. So tell me about your story. What brought you to Great Range Athlete? You're obviously from near the Adirondacks / in it-ish, good, close enough. So tell us your story.
Yes, sir. Well, I listen to your podcast all the time, and I heard through the other groups, and I just, like I said, I wanted to find somebody to go hiking with. I was sick of basically going alone. All the people that I have were either always too busy or nobody wanted to go. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to try it, and I am so glad that I did. I had a ball, and like you said, blood, sweat, and tears. You almost broke me week 2.
Yeah, I almost
It
broke
was
a few
kinda-
people in that week too, unfortunately.
My calf has recovered from that, but yes, and I did all the workouts. And as for the hike, it was a great time. I cannot say that enough. I had everybody that was there. It was so much fun talking with everybody. I did it.
Your first winter high peak too, right?
Yes, sir.
And how did that
I
feel
did.
to
I
get to
was
the
a little
first summit?
sore when we got done it, but you know what? I was trained. I had the athleticism to make it through it, and everybody was joking, and we had a good time. And except for the one time Brian wasn't there to pick me up when I fell down coming right off the top of the mountain.
Yeah, you had quite the face plant. You did it
It's
with grace, though. You did it
it's
with
those
grace.
snowshoes. Every time I try to step on one, I step on one, and once my foot goes, I'm going down. So I learned to tuck and roll an awful lot.
Yeah, you did a lot of hiking throughout the program. I know that Poca Moonshine's kind of your go-to mountain, but now you got up to your first summit. And Steven, remind us how old you are, sir.
63. It'd be 64 in June.
63 years young, doing training, a training program that I would deem not easy, that's for sure. And getting yourself here so that you can climb mountains more, right? Like you're putting in the work so that you can ultimately live the life that you're looking for. And how did you fare throughout the program? And then how did you find that impacting your hiking when you got out into the high peaks with us?
Well, there were times when I got done the workouts, I was sore. I tried to do them in the morning and go to work and had to try to kind of get through work, but I did it all. As for the hike, it made me so much stronger. I don't think if I would have tried doing that either alone or whatever, without you guys' support, I don't think I never would have made it through the program without the support, and I probably never would have made it to the top of Mount Colvin.
Yeah, it was great. It was great watching you get up there, my friend. And you, again, you always brought a smile. You always brought joy. Just a complete delight to have you on the team. I think every single person would agree with me. So cool. Anything else you want to share with the 46 of 46 podcast listeners, Stephen?
I just want to say it's a great program. If anybody's on the fence, you have to pull the trigger just like I did and get involved. It is a very fun group. I have a lot of friends now. Can't wait to go hiking again. And I'm just happy that I did it.
How great is it to now have a community of people that you can call on to go hiking, right? To go explore the outdoors, get out there in the winter, get out there in the summer, and have that sort of camaraderie. Very cool, Steven. Seriously, I mean that completely, sir. It's been a pleasure having you in this great range athlete world. So thank you so much for being here. All right, we're gonna move on. I'm gonna talk to John from Ohio. Special Agent John, I'm going to call on you, sir. Tell me about your experience with Great Range Athlete. What brought you here, and then how was your trip? So when you came up to the Adirondacks, you finished the LP9, which is awesome. Congrats. And then you tackled your first winter high peaking as well. So I want to hear all about your thought process for the training, and then how did your experience up Mount Colvin go?
So for the training, like you said, kind of mentioned, I was in the Adirondacks earlier in 2024. Started the LP9 and ultimately completed eight out of nine of them. I was with another friend of mine at the time, and it became pretty evident early on that there's a big difference between like fitness in the gym and mountain fitness. So because of that, I wanted to not only increase my mountain fitness, but I also wanted to try winter hiking too. So I saw your program and I thought, well, with the time that this is going to start, and then with the timing of potentially the group hike, this would kind of give me everything I needed. It'd give me some mountain fitness. It would also give me a chance to winter hike, and then I could potentially meet people that were like-minded that also wanted to hike in the Adirondacks. I'd like to do the 46er journey, so potentially I could meet some friends that I could hike with over the years and things. So that's kind of what brought me to the program. And my experience in the program, each week, in my opinion, was progressively more difficult than the previous. So seeing that, some of the exercises were getting easier each week, also the overall workouts were getting more difficult. So it was a little bit harder for me to initially see some of those like wins and increases in strength that I was making. That being said, by the time we got to the actual group hike, after the completion of the 6, 7 weeks of the program, in that hiking that day, 100%, I could tell there was a difference. My fitness was way better. The problems that I had mentioned to you that I had in my knee, I did not have that day. So there was enough increase in strength in my knee to where, quite honestly, we had hiked, Brian and I had actually hiked Bear Den, which was completing my LP9 the day before our group hike. Then we did our group hike, which was, I want to say, probably around 12, 13 miles and about 10 hours of hiking. And then the next day we were going to hike Cascade and Porter, but I had a 10-hour drive back to Ohio, and I knew the weather was going to be coming in that evening. And quite honestly, it was pretty brutal when I got back to the Ohio border there. So we did not hike it, but my body definitely could have withstanded it.
Mhm.
So I credit that 100% to the program, the ability to hike all those days in a row, that number of miles, the inclines, the elevation increases, all of that. And quite honestly, the only thing I regret is I didn't go and hike Cascade and Porter on Sunday, because I definitely think I could have done it.
Sure. No, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome to hear. Now, how did you hear about the Adirondacks? So you're from Ohio. What's your kind of connection, or how did you first stumble across the ADK?
So I work for the government, and I work for an investigative agency, and we also run the crime lab for our state. So one of the other forensic scientists that works in our crime lab, we're such a large agency that they send out every month. They kind of highlight a couple employees, and they kind of tell their background and their hobbies and interests, things like that. And for this particular employee, he had mentioned in there that he was an Adirondack 46er, and he had hiked the highest 46 peaks in the Adirondacks. So that intrigued me. And then in speaking with him about it, I kind of learned about what ADK 46 was, and then just did my online research, found your podcast, and it kind of just went from there. So it sounded like something I really wanted to do. And then, like I said, I started earlier with starting the LP9 so I could get kind of a taste of hiking because I certainly don't have extensive hiking experience.
Sure. And now look at you, mountain ready, climbing high peaks with snowshoes on, having the time of your life. Very cool. Now you can climb all the high peaks in Ohio with no problem. You just get out,
Absolutely.
get up every mountain in Ohio, not an issue. You will be crushing it. Very cool. John, it's great to have you. It was great to have you on the team. And actually, funny enough, there has been someone from Ohio on every single Great Range Athlete team. So there is definitely a desire for people in your state to climb mountains. Not surprising, but awesome. Very cool, my friend. Great to have you here. All right, moving on. Let's talk to Mr. Mark Anderson. Mark Anderson, Adirondack photographer. Tell me about your experience in the Great Range Athlete program, my friend.
Yeah, James. Yeah, I do want to thank you from the beginning too, because you invited me to come along on this, and it was something that I really needed at the time. And having the same workout routine for probably the same for about a year now, and it was perfect timing because I knew I was going to be getting challenged a little bit more with having some new unique workouts to have put into the calendar, which is great. So it has come flies right in. Um, yeah, it's not for lack of dedication that I get to the gym, but the creativity kind of wanes out when I'm the one building my exercises every week and workout routine. So it was great being a part of this team. I have to say, yeah, the camaraderie aspect of this team was probably the most beneficial thing for me. Just the fellowship of like all these people, Daryl, Shane, John, everyone. I mean, I connected with every single one of y'all, especially culminating in the hike. It was just really nice to be able to see everyone face to face instead of just over Marco Polo and even a text occasionally from Patrick, aka Nubs. Um, yeah, it was a great experience overall, and I did come away, yeah, just feeling stronger in general too. Some of the workouts that you had put into the into probably week 3 or 4 getting into deadlifts again. That was something I had been nursing a prior army injury with my knee and was just kind of hesitant to get back deadlifting again and get back on the trap bar. And by week 4, it was great. I mean, my knee felt great. I wasn't doing a shocking amount of weight, but I was able to put on 2 or 3 plates on each side and be able to load it up to a decent amount of weight. And my back and my knee held up great. I think just having the momentum from the weeks prior gave me a lot of confidence boost. So
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about your background. So you're from California. What I like about you is, you came to New York, in the army, but then you fell in love with the Adirondacks and, you moved here and you relocated your young family here. And I cannot stress enough how much we need young families in the Adirondack Park. Man, do we need some families here in the Adirondack Park? But tell us your story about how you kind of fell in love with this place.
yeah, preaching on the young family thing. Yeah, we really do. Fell in love with this park. It was very reminiscent of Alaska after I left California. I'll say the bubble of California, growing up there for 20 some years, and then just plugging in with the Army was already a culture shock, and then it was another culture shock moving out of training right into like a fully Arctic unit in Fort Wainwright, Alaska, which was Fairbanks, right in the middle of the state. Very quiet, very remote, beautiful area, but I fell in love with the mountains there even more than I did with the Sierras in the California. And then when I moved to upstate New York to Fort Drum for the 10th Mountain Division, got out in 2018, stayed in Watertown area for about 6 years, and found over time, me and my wife, we were taking multiple trips out to the park, coming to Lake Placid, staying in Saranac Lake, St. Regis area, like Champlain Valley, Keene Valley. And it was just beautiful and started doing hikes over time and just kind of plugging in into the community like over time over the course of the years. And then we ended up moving out here. It'll be a year in like 3 days. We've been here
Awesome.
here in Lake Placid. So right down the street from you, James. Yeah, Lake Placid it's home. Someone asked us the other day, they said, "Are you looking to move?" What are you talking about? We just moved here a year ago, and I was like, this is the closest it's felt like home in probably my entire life. Aside from parts of Alaska that felt like home, this is like here with the family, here in these mountains. it's one of the best paces of life and rhythms of life that I've ever experienced.
I
And the
love it.
mountains are just the backdrop too. Getting to ski, getting to hike, climb. Yeah, it's already woven into the weekly rhythm.
Yeah, I love it, dude. No, like I said, I love seeing that you and your whole family moved here and you're setting up shop here. It's a beautiful thing. Well, glad to have you in the Great Range Athlete team, dude, and glad to have you locally to go to have adventures with me too. So glad to have you
Yep.
here. All right, let's
Yep.
move on. Let's go to Western New York. So for starters, my condolences again to you Bills fans out there. I know it's tough to talk about life right now, but Patrick, Mr. Patrick from Rochester. Tell me about your second Great Range Athlete story. What brought you back for more? You just needed some more pain, or what was it that brought you here?
Yeah, so I was on Team Marcy, and right before we started, probably the Thursday before we started, on that Sunday, I threw my back out really bad. So the first 2 or 3 weeks, I was not able to give 100%. Kind of like some of the people on Team Colden, and so I was really on the struggle bus. And then so getting through the program with Team Marcy and the group hike was just such a great experience. Then would you have Team Gothics? That was just kind of fun to watch and listen to, and I was just like, man, I'm really messing out. So we did Team Colden now, and I was healthy. Actually, this time we started, I had a broken hand, but
Yes, which
that's
I
not.
only just learned about like the other day. You said you had a broken hand, which you kept under wraps pretty well, which is wild.
Yeah, I didn't want to get kicked off the team.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I would have asked you to leave. Absolutely.
a liability again. But no, was able to work through it, and just really, I think for me, hiking mountains and stuff wasn't even a thing until I had my own kids, and then hiking with your kids, I'm thinking I'm gonna die going up these things. So I knew I'm a gym rat. I love free weights. I love you know the stair climber. I love anything that has to do with like lifting heavy. But when it comes to climbing mountains and then throwing weight on your back and then carrying your kids' backpacks, yeah, you don't want to hear your heart and your head pounding between your ears. So, yeah, this program helped me get into shape, and then it was nice to actually be in shape this time without the thrown out back. So, the winter hiking, it's weird. I know you've always talked to me about how I have more winter high peaks than I have summer high peaks, but it's just kind of where I started, and you don't know what you don't know. I
Hmm.
guess it is a little more dangerous in the winter. So I've learned that over the years. It is kind of weird to start in the winter, but that's just my thing. So
Sure.
it's just a bonus that Team Colden happened to start in the wintertime. I love it. I think my first actual experience, we did the Saranac Winter Sixer, and I took my boys with me. This is 3 years ago, and now knowing what I know, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of crazy. Before even doing, Cascade and Porter, like most people start on the high peaks. But yeah, so now sitting at 40 of
That's
the
great.
46. It's insane. I used to see the sticker, and I always thought it was something that was like, I don't know, something unattainable, like a dream or something like that. But I listen to your podcast, and I'm just like, I actually follow. I have your book. There's a new one coming out, but I have the original and kind of follow that, and I'm at 40. It's unbelievable.
That's great.
So
Once you hit that 40, like it's like you said, like it all of a sudden feels real now when you see that 40 number. Very cool. What five do we have or what six do we have left?
Cliff, Redfield, Marcy, and then I'd like to finish on the 100th anniversary over in the Seward Range. So
Got it.
Seward, Donaldson, and Emmons. Emmons isn't the most glorious, but it is, I guess, the last one that was the 46. So June 10th, if you want to join me, anybody.
It's definitely it will definitely be an underwhelming summit finish.
Yeah, I know.
I will foreshadow that it will be an underwhelming summit finish, but very cool. So Patrick, what was it that, kind of like brought you to the Adirondack Park? Because you're one of those Western New York people that are just obsessed with this place. What is it about the Adirondacks that kind of grabbed you?
Over the years, I was talking to my family about it. I guess my dad and grandparents used to camp up near Long Lake, and my dad always had this glass like insulator thing that used to carry the wiring up the mountains and stuff. He got it over at Owl's Head near Long Lake. I didn't know that when he was like 14, and then he camped there, and then he started taking us camping, my family, and we camped there every year for a couple weeks every summer, and then like I said, I have my own kids, and I'm just like, let's go camping in the Adirondacks. Never even thought of hiking, and then heard of this little mountain called Ampersand, and that's where I got bit by the bug. Started Ampersand, which is I did it in the winter. Was socked in, but that started my whole. They have these challenges. They have the Saranac 6, knocked that off. LP9er, knocked that off, and then started working on my winter 46er and then realized, hey, these are easier in the summer. So have a couple of those, couple three-peats, and yeah, I just love it. I'm only 4 hours away. I'm only 4 hours away. So
Hey, dude, I've worked in New York City for 17 years, so a 5 hour drive to me just doesn't feel like it just feels like I just got to go to work real quick. I'll be back. So I can understand. Not that far, not that bad, but very cool, dude. So it looks like you had some unfinished business of sorts with Great Range
yes,
Athlete and more winter hiking, right? So now let me
yes,
ask you this. When I announced that we were hiking Mount Colvin,
yeah.
a mountain that I think you said you've done 2 times now in the winter, uh,
I look back,
how
yeah.
how disappointed were you that it was Mount Colvin again?
Well, I had it in December and I had it in February.
Oh,
So I the first time I did it, I was solo and I needed to get Blake. Had to turn around because it was freezing rain, so I was very unhappy. So got back to the AMR parking lot soaking wet. Did it again in February. Got Blake, and I was like, all right, cool. I'll never have to do that again. Yeah. So
yeah.
that's
You were just
so
like
I haven't.
so happy that that was the mountain that I chose for us to go on our group hike on.
I mean, the view was okay. The view was all right. The company was. I was looking forward to the company this time because the last two times were solo. So the company was
Absolutely.
great. A lot of good friends, and now I have some hiking buddies. And yeah, we it was a great experience.
Awesome. Glad to hear it, dude. Glad to hear it. It was great to have you on the team again. Great to see
Yeah,
you
that's,
again and awesome stuff. Very cool. All right, we're
thanks,
going to
coach.
move on now. We're going to move on to another Great Range Athlete repeat and 46 of 46 podcast repeat, Mr. Brian Colopy. If you haven't heard Brian's episode on this podcast, there's a summit session where we talked about the Spartan Trail. Spartan, was it Brian? Was it Spartan or not officially Spartan? Trail race at Mount Van Hovenberg. Brian's story, it's awesome. It's better than a movie. If you like an underdog story, check out that story. It's a story about someone who just wouldn't quit, and that is why Brian is a quintessential Great Range athlete. So, Brian, what brought you back for round two, my brother?
So it was I always struggle with the holidays to build momentum, and there was a lot of momentum that was gained when I came onto the Marcy team. A lot more strength, a lot more confidence, and the race season was over for the Spartan race was over there too. So I was looking for something that wouldn't let me write a check for myself to say, yeah, take December off and be real easy. And you saw the Gothics team come through, and I talked to Randall about like what was it like going through the second time. Did it feel repetitive? Did we have any? He goes, no. He goes, you actually are a better teammate for everybody because they'll approach you individually and say, am I supposed to be feeling this way? Am I supposed to be doing over it? And you can help them be successful in the program a little bit more. And I was still on the fence, and I think I remember I was talking to Pat, and Pat wanted to go, and I'm like, well, if Pat's going, someone's got to take care of Pat. And then I was talking with Annie, and Annie's like, oh, do it, just do it. My friends are here. I want you to help them out over there too. And then Annie routed me out to you, and I think you're like, yo, join. And I'm like, so on I went. So that's how I got there.
Great.
Yeah.
Great to have you again. Great to have you again. And I think I agree completely with what Randall said. Shout out to you, Randall. I know you'll listen to this. Um, Having the ability to help other people along when they're struggling on something that you've done before is monumental. Like that's why this team environment, this team atmosphere is so impactful. Like, look at the hike itself. How many people have already hiked high peaks or hiked this high peak, like can help the other people along and know what to do, what you should be feeling, how to get where you're trying to go, how your backpack should be, like all these things. Like, this is what makes a team environment so impactful. So I'm super stoked that you came back and continue to make it happen for yourself. Cool. How did Mount Colvin go for you? You did probably as much hiking as anybody else in the team throughout the program. So have you found that you're moving through the mountains smoother and better and stronger?
Yeah, I felt it was kind of like it was a little bit of struggle with the winter hiking on that one over there too, and kind of talking with a lot of teammates over there too, like going hiking with Stephen and Carla. I think we went up because I was finishing off my Lake Placid Niner through the program, and it kind of a little bit of advice from there. And then when Stephen and I went up Ampersand together, he taught me how to butt slide. I'd never learned how to done that or anything like that. So when Stephen taught me how to do it, and then with what was it with Ev the next day we went up over to Allen. That was like the ultimate butt slide all the way
Yep.
down. And so I think the combination of the community kind of supporting and kind of sharing that knowledge really helped. That when we got to the group hike, I just was like, I was just right in the zone and ready to go. But you still need teammates to help you out. And the one thing I was thinking about today was coming off the summit, and I remember falling into a spruce trap, and I'm stuck and I can't get out. And you're right above me. You're like, I got to pick you up again. I'm like, you're always picking me up. Come on, get me out of here.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah,
remember. No, very good stuff, dude. It's been awesome. It's been awesome watching you continue to grow this entire year. Like, you're always out in the mountains. So people don't know you live in the Adirondacks. You grew up in the Adirondacks. So watching you also, I can relate to you continuing to explore and experience like what this park actually is. Because when you grow up here, it's a totally different vibe. It's just this small town that we live in, and
mhm.
some people like mountains, but then until you actually get into them and you can do them confidently and enjoy them, all of a sudden it becomes a very different place, a very different place. So glad to have you. So I didn't get to hike with you. Take me through your experience going up Colvin. You were
My
at the front of the pack. So take us through that hike.
so going up in the front over there, I was really just trying to stay warm, so I was just moving right along over there too. And the trail was really nice and broken out, so we didn't have to break the trail out. So it was a pretty good hike up into it. And I remember we kind of did break out into sections over there too, and we're all kind of waiting for each other. And I remember I was kind of like, what's holding up? And I know there was a backpack thing. I remember I came back just for you to see, like, hey, you want me to take the pack? And you're like, no, I got it. And I just keep going. So I remember we pushed up ahead, and I think it was Mark, Evelyn, and I were kind of out in the front. And I remember we got up to the summit, and we're up there waiting. And I just remember waiting for a while for everybody to get up there. And I was ready to get moving again. I think after we did the photo and we're all heading back down. So, but I do remember that the other part was I think everybody kind of stuck together. We all kind of were butt sliding all the way down until we got to the intersection over there too, which I thought was pretty cool. It felt like its own Tabata.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was fun to watch, fun to do it. And yeah, you guys were up there for a little bit, so I'm sure you were a little bit chilly, but man, we filled that Mount Colvin summit. That's for sure. I think we were at max capacity on that little summit, but it was awesome. Very cool, man. Glad to have you back. Glad to see that this has been an impactful experience for you, and that you just did Allen in the winter. Like, you're cruising, or dude, you are cruising. You are showing yourself what you can do, and it's fun to watch. Very cool. All right, we're gonna move on. All right. What a pleasure it is to have Shane on my podcast right now. So, Shane, you are one of my longest supporters, and that's why I love you so much. You have been from day one. You're probably the first person like that ever consistently like shared my new podcast episode, this and that. So you've been a huge supporter of mine from day one. So I genuinely appreciate you so much. And it's awesome to have you on the Great Range Athlete team. So for starters, thank you for being such a supporter of the 46 of 46 podcast from literally day one. And now you're on the podcast. So how exciting. But Shane, talk to us about your Great Range Athlete experience.
Well, I'm sure I can speak for other people when I say thank you for the great content for us to listen to.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. I was excited when you kind of mentioned joining it. I don't know why it never
I
really crossed
challenged
my
you.
mind. You did.
I challenged you.
And being part of the Seek to Do More group, there's a lot of people coming there from the Great Range programs. So I was like, why not? Like, see these experiences. There are all these friends coming in that lived all over, but were friends coming into the group. And literally everything the women had to say about that was positive. Everything was positive, positive vibes, positive workouts. The friendships were great. So I was actually very excited to join and also add some more strength to my workouts, considering most of it is running and cardio aspects. So I was looking forward to that, and I'm glad I did. Like the others have said, the workouts are challenging, and every week they got harder and harder. But as the weeks went on, I noticed the weights were increasing for me. My form was getting better with burpees, which Lord bless you with assigning those as workouts. But the step ups were getting easier. And I mean, even for Christmas, that's one thing I asked for from my family was just heavier dumbbells to use.
Nice.
So I was proud of myself for that. And I also like the program too, because no matter if you're traveling at home or whatever, like you could do whatever workout too.
Cool.
Like you didn't need a full-fledged gym.
Now, so you're already an Adirondack 46er. You already
Correct.
run half marathons. You kind of joined to like do something new, do something different.
Yep.
How much winter hiking do you do? And did you notice this impact your ability on the trail that day?
It's been a couple years since I've done some winter hiking, and I felt great that day. I wasn't sore at all. I felt good with how my pack felt like later to me. I didn't feel like I was really straining with any of it. And actually, that same weekend, I decided to go and do Van Hovenberg and start the LP Niner winters to start doing that. So just to get back in the swing of winter hiking, and now that I have this small community I can drag out there.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm gonna tell you something. Anytime you want to go hiking, you call Steven, you call Brian. They're gonna come on down for a hike, or come on up for a hike. No, down. Come on down for a hike from where you guys live. Very good. All right. Well, Shane, seriously, I mean that it's awesome having you on the podcast, and I mean that sincerely. Like since day one, you have probably been the biggest supporter of what I do and all the time I put into this. So I appreciate it very greatly, and thanks for being here. Very cool. All right, let's move to Western New York now. Heading over to Western New York, Jennifer, talk to me about your Great Range athlete experience. Again, sorry about the Buffalo Bills loss. Yeah, talk to me about your
Okay.
experience.
Thank you, James.
Your first Adirondack High Peak in the winter. So
Yeah.
big things happen. So talk to me about your experience.
Yeah, it was definitely huge for me for sure. I appreciate the opportunity. I feel like the whole program was motivational, positive, and definitely like the team atmosphere was helpful. I started for a few different reasons. But the winter hiking was definitely a part of that. I've done a bunch of little like smaller peaks in the Adirondacks and stuff like that. But yeah, it'd been over a decade since I've done a high peak, and to actually have trained, for the 6 weeks and stuff like that. When I got up there that day, um, it was great. I mean, I felt like I was prepared. I was definitely slow, but I knew that that would be a problem for me, I guess. But I felt strong. Like I definitely, my legs did feel strong throughout the whole hike. I mean, yeah, I was sore the next day. It was a long hike. I mean, it was anticipation. I was a nervous wreck
Mm-hmm.
like the
Sure.
night before and the days and weeks even like leading up to it. I
That's
was an
normal.
absolute,
That's completely normal. Completely
yeah,
normal.
yeah, I was nervous, and but I learned so much just about the gear and being prepared and everything. I probably overdid it a little bit. I joked with you guys because I mean my pack was really heavy that day. I overpacked, and I said I could probably still be up in the mountains right now living off the food and clothes and other supplies I had in my bag. So I paid the price. It definitely slowed me down a bit.
But
But
you
it was
did not quit, though.
amazing.
You did
No,
not quit. See, that's the thing. You did
no,
not quit. You could have turned around at any time. You could have said, I can't do
no.
this. I can't make
No.
it. But what did you do? You just kept
Yeah.
going. And that, how
Yeah.
did that feel when you finally got to the summit? Like that's the
Oh,
bigger picture, really.
oh yeah, it was great. I felt, I was very happy to be up at the top, and everybody was very patient and, and helpful. And it was nerve-wracking, the snowshoes were new. Walking in those, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. It was actually easier than I thought. Like this is what I said to myself afterwards. The hike was long and I knew it was going to be long.
Hmm.
And I had myself mentally prepared for that. I actually thought the hiking and some of the tactical aspects of getting up, I thought it was going to be harder. Um, but then on the other hand, like I did feel like I was going to do better. Just as far as like the pace, again, it was just the pace. I'm slow, I'm used to kind of like taking my sweet old time and a nice little hike, but now I see that if you want to cover these amount of miles in a day, you got to move along pretty quick, or you are going to be hiking in the dark and stuff like that. And um, so that's something I'll continue to, kind of work on, but I just love it. I mean, I love the views. I always enjoyed being out in nature and spending time in the woods, and I absolutely love the Adirondacks. Like Mark said, whenever I go up there and visit, it feels like home. It's a nice way of life, and I value adventure and fun, and it crosses it kind of puts a check mark on a lot of those things I love doing. So I'm just very fortunate for the opportunity to get
Awesome.
out there and do my first winter hike. So it was awesome.
Awesome. So glad that you were able to come. So glad that you made it to that summit. You did not quit. You kept pushing. You fought some demons to get yourself up there and you made it to the summit. Like, I can't stress enough how difficult it is for a person to get to a high top of a high peak in the dead of winter. Like when you're standing up on those mountains, you look around, you're like, we have no business being here where we are right now. Like standing on a summit in the middle of the winter, you look around the backcountry, like my feet took me here. Like it can't be understated. So again, props to you for fighting through and pushing forward. So let me ask you this question. You've seen pictures of the high peaks covered in that fluffy Dr. Seuss snow, but what was it like when you're actually there walking through it for the first time? What did that feel like?
Well, Daryl and I were hanging out quite a bit on the trail, and so we kept joking. Said, "Well, what's this branch you have to go under?" I said, "Well, now you're entering Narnia. It is. It's like a winter wonderland with all this fluffy snow on the trees, and all of the branches are held down by the snow, and it's quiet. Oh, it is just amazing. I love it.
Yeah, what an experience, what a
Magical.
day. The trail was fast, it was broken out, it was quick, it was good. Pretty perfect winter hiking conditions, quite honestly. There was no wind, it was like dead. Awesome day. Very cool. Well, Jennifer, it was awesome having you on the program and awesome watching you succeed and get to the summit of Mount Colvin. Great to have you. All right, let's move on to Daryl. Last but not least, Mr. Daryl from Rochester. So, Daryl, talk about battling from day one of the Great Range Athlete Program, not quitting. There's a reason I saved you for last. Not quitting and continuing to push after like issue after issue after issue. You did not quit. You did not give up. You did not let yourself off the hook. You finished what you said you do. You came here, you got it done, and then you got to the top of Mount Colvin as well. Talk to us about the saga of Great Range Athlete from your perspective.
My goodness. Well, first off, thanks so much for putting this thing on and getting us all in touch with each other. It's been, an amazing experience, and I can't wait to sign up and do it all again in the near future. Yeah, there was a couple battles along the way, right? I think week two, the lunges, I did something to my knee. I don't know if it was bad form or just, I was, that far out of shape to begin with, but tweaked the snot out of my right knee and could barely put weight on it for, gosh, I don't know, the better part of a week and a half, something like that. It was super, super difficult. I ended up buying knee braces and was using those to get through the workouts. Had to modify some of my workouts. I had to, I was doing step ups on, the bottom basement step in my house because I couldn't get, that much body weight up, on a full lunge, 16, 20 inches up. So I had to be super, super careful. And it was weird. I'd be walking around and it was fine. And all of a sudden I would kind of shuffle to the side and have this real sharp pain. So it was just frustrating to get through that. But, kind of, slowly got through that. And I don't think my knee was really better until probably, a few days before, leading into our hike. Week 3, I was working on my car and I was swinging a sledgehammer at one of my wheels and threw my back out. And that one was the doozy. So I still had mobility a bit that day just because I was forced to kind of put things back together and get back home. But, I've struggled with back injuries since I was 18 years old. I knew where this was going and it wasn't a good place. Typically when I throw my back out, I'm incapacitated for probably a solid week, right? It's like sitting hurts, standing hurts, laying down hurts, walking hurts. It's tough. And you had told me, you jumped on a polo after, I think I put a polo up of me like sitting or like plopped on the floor of my kitchen. I'm like, well, just crawled up my basement steps. I'm gonna try and crawl into my living room now and figure something out. And it wasn't much longer afterwards that you jumped on and you said something that was really, really key, but also really hard to hear that first time through. You said, you're not as broken as you think you are, right? And that was huge. And I'll tell you, I didn't tell you this at the time. I said that kind of pissed me off a little bit, and I'll tell you why. Because I know my body better than everyone, right? So I know how incapacitated I am. I know how hard it's going to be to get through this, and then to have someone telling me, "Oh, it's not that bad. Rub some dirt on it. Get back to work." Right? You didn't say that, but just like you're not as broken as you think you are. Figure out what you can do and start doing that. And so I was like, real big chip on my shoulder. I'm like, he has no idea what I'm going through. But I said, I signed up for this. I've got to trust what James is telling me. I'm going to do it. And so I did. And so that evening, just moving around was super, super difficult. I think it was a Saturday. And then Sunday morning came around. I could barely even get out of my bed. Like I had to do this weird kind of hang on to the part of the bed frame and kind of fling myself off. And it was a process. But what I did the rest of that day was I found that I could, I couldn't really bend over at all. And you told me in one of the polos said, start focusing on doing, Romanian deadlifts. So I couldn't, I was in my kitchen. I would hold on to the counter and bend over and just a couple of degrees was all I could do. And I just kept on doing that over and over again. And a few hours went by and I had a bit more mobility and a bit more mobility. I finally got to the point where I could actually, I went downstairs and I did like one RDL. I'm like, honey, I did it. I got one done. So I taped a piece of paper and a pen onto my basement door. And what I would do is with 2 hands, I would slowly walk down my basement steps. I would turn around. I would do 10 body weight squats. I would get up and I would go back upstairs and then I would mark 1 hash off. And then I did that all day long. I think I ended up that day doing 240 body weight squats and then up and down the stairs. And then every other one, I did 10 reps of RDLs along with it. So I was exhausted the day after that, but it made such a huge impact to just keep on moving, to figure out what I could do, because you can do something, right? So figure that out and pound that into the ground and keep on pressing on. So that was the injuries. And I think I was still, my back was not right for a solid week and a half after that, but I pressed on.
But you pressed on. So I need to clarify you're not as broken as you think you are. It wasn't to rub some dirt on it. You're fine. I am kind of that way in general. I am actually kind of that way in general. Shout out to all my clients that I piss off too with things that I say, like you just said. But the mentality of reminding yourself you're not as broken as you think you are is to keep you from mentally spiraling to I can't do anything. Whereas when when you're walking through the woods, you turn and you look left, it looks one way. But if you keep walking 10 more feet and turn and look left again, now the woods look different. It's a perspective shift. So by reminding ourselves we're not as broken as we think we are, now we'll focus on the the things we can do, the things we can control. It's the same thing in the backcountry. Control what you can and plan for the things you can't. So
Yeah, I think there's
it was awesome watching you though, honestly, dude. It was awesome watching you just like not give up, not spiral, keep pushing forward, doing whatever you could. And that is like, that's the big picture of it all. So kudos.
Yeah, and there was one other thing you said. I think it was our first group Zoom meeting we had. You said, look around and said, not everyone's going to be here at the end. And we had talked about that before in some of the polos, and my wife was sitting right next to me, and it was one of those weird things that just stuck with me, and it hit me hard, looking, all these people, bought into this program. We're all here together, and you're telling us that not everyone's going to be here at the end. And so that really resonated with me, and that was, one of the driving factors in the back of my head the whole time is to make sure that I see this through.
I love it. Love to see it. It's been great. It was great watching you. Again, there was a reason I saved you for last tonight while we were talking, because I think you just like persevered and overcame so much. And then the hike itself, getting up to Mount Colvin, what a great day, getting down. It was a long, hard day, but you made it. And you went through so many things to get there. So it was awesome having you, and you and your wife as well.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else have anything else they want to share with the world here on the podcast, or to your Great Range Athlete teammates who weren't on the hike, who maybe are going to listen to this episode? Anything else anyone wants to share? There's no right or wrong answer.
James, it's John. I'd like to just say I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody on the Great Range Athlete Colton team. I met some really great people. I gained a lot of mountain strength, and I just really look forward to continuing my hiking journey and also hiking with all of you again in the future. So I really appreciate it, and I just want to say thank you to everybody.
Awesome. Great to have you, dude. Great to have another Ohio person here in the Great Range Athlete team. Something about Ohio, man. They're just attracted to the ADK. Can't blame them, though. Can't blame them. All right. But that's going to wrap up this episode of the 4646 podcast. The Great Range Athlete Colton team is now officially complete. Brother Steven, athletes are dismissed. It's great having all of you guys. And thank you all for listening to this episode of the 46 of 46 podcast. It's been an awesome experience with Great Range Athlete, watching people train themselves to get stronger so that they can go have the outdoors adventures that they all want to have. My entire platform, none of you would know me if it wasn't for what strength training did for me, which is what opened up the outdoors to me. Mount Ampersand, Patrick was talking about it before. Mount Ampersand will always be or Ampersand Mountain. I actually don't know which one it is, but it will always have a place in my heart, because it was the mountain that I realized, holy crap, I can do this. And it was only because of what the doors that strength training opened to me. And that is the point of what Great Range Athlete is to open the doors to the outdoors for anyone that wants it via strength training. But anyways, thank you all for listening to this episode of the 46 of 46 podcast. To the Colton team, it's been a pleasure leading you over the last 6-7 weeks. Hope to see you all again soon. Head over to 46outdoors.com to check out everything I have to offer to help you have a safe and successful time here in the Adirondack High Peaks. I have a brand new book coming out March 4th, The Adirondack 46 in 18 Hikes. Check it out. It is available for pre-order right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or you could order it from your local bookstore. The publisher has the distribution. Well, anyone could get it. So if you guys like what I do, you want to support this journey that I've been on, you want to hike the high peaks, or you just want to add it to your Adirondack book collection, the Adirondack 46 in 18 Hikes drops March 4th. Thank you all for listening. Remember to always leave no trace, do the rock walk, and if you carry it in, carry it out. See you on the trails, everybody.